Hello, everybody. Welcome. Come on in. Coming into the final Wednesday Writers Club of Reedsy Novel Sprint 2025. My name is Martin. I'm from the team at Reedsy, welcoming you to this final live event that we're actually hosting as a part of Reedsy Novel Sprint 2025, the challenge where we have been inviting you to write 50,000 words over the course of 30 days for nothing more than pride, the creative challenge, and perhaps a shot at some prizes. So glad to have everyone join today. There's already some chat in the chat box asking about submissions. Yesterday, if you tuned in live, I said I was going to send around an email with links to submit if you have already exceeded 50,000 words. Those of you who have exceeded 50,000 words may have noticed that there has been no email. I've been basically working all day trying to finalize a way to submit it that would sort of be a little bit more watertight. I had a couple of epiphanies last night of how I would go about cheating the system if I were so inclined, and started panicking. But we have a system. I'm going to send out a newsletter tomorrow. But basically, if you're ready to submit, I'll be asking you to share a share link in through Reedsy Studio. I'll be sending around a video that'll show everyone how to actually get that link. But we do have a feature that allows you to go in and, seeing as we're here, I might as well actually show it to you live. And then I'll also create a video tomorrow to show everyone else how it might work as well. So unseen to you, I'm going to log in somewhere. But in the comments, do let us know if in the past day or since we last met, you have hit a major milestone, whether that's 25,000 words, 10,000 words, or the promised land of 50,000 words. Do let us know. Let us share in your successes and triumphs. While I log into Reedsy Studio and I'm about to show you exactly how all this works. But yes, indeed, today we're going to have a session that talks about combining story strands. I know that many of you are writing stories with multiple POV characters, maybe an A story and a B story. I'm going to share a fantastic lesson from Tom Bromley's course, How to Write a Novel, that will show you how to dovetail some of these strands. But yes, before we do that, let me show you this. Give me a second just to open up the size just a little bit. Whoop, incorrect. God, I have somehow crashed. No, we haven't. Here we go. Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, that is certainly non-ideal. Let me see if I can change this. Good thing this is before the actual official start of this, because this is a little bit tough. 1 second to do this live. Oh, just wait. So I just had this sort of shaped to perfection. Okay, here we go. So this is my manuscript. Let's say it's yours. For the sake of argument, this one has 3 chapters here. Let's just say that the submission will be for the first chapter. There is an option to go down here to share. And from there, you'll then have the option to create a new link. I'm going to ask you to create a link that expires at the end of January, and to share select chapters. And that chapter is just the first one, or whatever chapter is you're submitting. Create a link, and then you'll have a little link there. And then, yeah, you will send that to us, and then we'll have access to that one chapter, as well as a little bit of metadata that tells us that it is indeed from your manuscript. Anyway, let us actually get started with the thing proper. Now that you've seen me cack-handedly use the computer for a little while. Welcome to Wednesday Writers Club. Hello everybody, welcome to Wednesday Writers Club, the very last Wednesday Writers Club of Reedsy Novel Sprint 2025. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Martin. I'm from the team at Reedsy, and I'm so pleased to see so many people joining live right now. A lot of consistent, good, loyal faces, part of the team here, cheering everybody on. One of the really lovely things about doing this novel sprint this year is the sense of community that we've found here. So yes, it's been absolutely wonderful. In this session, I'm going to be sharing with you a lesson from our course on how to write a novel on the idea of dovetailing, that is bringing together story strands. I'll be answering a few questions and basically just a little bit of a hangout. So there are some questions here. I'm going to leave that to the end, but I'll be making a note of it. Okay, so yes, this is the final one. There's only 4 more days. Many of you have already hit 50,000 words. Many of you haven't come close to that. But I think the most important thing is whether you've been able to sit down and make a regular habit of it. It doesn't mean that you've had to do it every single day. That doesn't mean you have to do it every other day. It's the whole idea of this thing is to build in yourself a regular writing practice that will serve you so well, far beyond this month and this year. With that in mind, let's get on with the video of this last section. We're going to have a little bit more of a hangout afterwards. I'll answer any questions you have, clear a few things up. But in the meantime, feel free to keep on chatting and sharing your successes. If you have any questions about anything, I'll see you at the end. But here it is. Enjoy the film, kids.
Today, as part of this week on further plot skills, we are looking at the topic of dovetailing. Now, by dovetailing, we mean when the novel you're writing has more than one strand. It may be 2 different timelines, it may be 2 different character viewpoints, it may be both of these and more, depending on what type of novel you're writing. But whatever the kind of strand or the number of elements involved, the key element is how these different strands pull together to help create the whole. Because the danger when you're writing a story with more than one strand is that those strands don't link up. Instead, they play out in tandem, happening in parallel rather than interweaving as one. If your novel is set up like this, then thinking about how to pull these strands together is important. I think that's particularly important as you get further on in the book. To start with, there's more scope for separation in the strands. The reader will trust you that at some point those strands are going to end up together. But the more you get into the novel, the more that linkage needs to be happening. One technique that works really well here is the idea of passing a baton. That's quite a good way of visualizing what needs to happen. It's the plot equivalent of your strands being in a relay race, with one strand passing the baton to the next, and then back again. Whatever you are writing about in one strand needs to somehow link up and continue through into the next strand. And that linkage can be a plot element, a timestamp, a small detail. But when you have something like that, it really helps to tie the material together and reinforce the sense that they're combined. This switching can happen on a chapter level, but it can also happen within a chapter as well. And when you do so, that can help to add pace, particularly as you are building up towards the end. So this can be a useful technique to have at your fingertips. We're going to look at an example of each today. And we'll begin with a book where the switching is taking place as sections within a chapter. And this is from The Day of the Jackal by Frederick Forsyth. And this is a book which is a thriller about an assassin, the Jackal, who is trying to kill the then French president. In the chapter we're going to look at, chapter 16, the Jackal is already in France and is getting ready to carry out the assassination. Meanwhile, Lebel, who is the main detective on the case, is trying to work out where he is and trying to stop him. We begin the chapter in a hotel in Gap. The Jackal here has seduced another guest at the hotel and they're going back to her room. And that's a sharp contrast to the next section with the police, who rather than taking it easy are working hard to track him down. They've got a clue of the name he's using, Alex Duggan, and they are trying to find any sign of him. LaBelle and his team, though, are not getting anywhere at all, and they're exhausted. LaBelle was short-tempered with him, which was unusual. The lack of sleep must be beginning to tell. We then switch back to the jackal in the hotel room, relaxed and in bed. Again, it's a good contrast, and the scene ends with the jackal returning to his room, but not before revealing to the woman, Colette, that his name is Alex. The next section switches to the following morning and the police investigation. We have the local gendarme who's turned up at the hotel to collect the identity details of the different people who are staying at the hotel. We get some timestamps. That happens at 7 in the morning. At 8 o'clock, the gendarme gets back to the police station and sends the registration cards onto the regional headquarters. The jackal, meanwhile, sleeps on until 9. And with the jackal asleep, the police investigation continues. Back in London, they track Alex Duggan and find he left London Heathrow on a plane for the continent. The British police then contact LaBelle at 10 a.m. LaBelle, like the jackal, is now fast asleep. They make contact with the police in Brussels, thinking the jackal is there. But the jackal, having been relaxed, is about to go on high alert. He rings a contact in Paris with insider knowledge of the police investigation and realises they are onto him. He gets his bill and checks out of the hotel a day early. Now the pace starts to pick up. Just before midday, the police trace the jackal from Brussels to Italy and onto the hotel in Gap. They also have details of the car the jackal is driving. Roadblocks are set up and LaBelle is helicoptered to Gap to arrest him. Early afternoon, and the jackal is making adjustments to his car to stop it being recognised. He's changing the number plate and painting it a different colour. As he is driving off, he gets stopped by a policeman. He worries he's been spotted, but he's halted to let the convoy of police cars head through to the hotel. They pass by, he carries on. LaBelle arrives at the hotel at 4:50 to discover that the jackal has fled. Now all of this action happens in one chapter. There's a lot of sections, a continuous switching, and that gives the story a real pace. The links with the time work well to tie things together and give the piece forward momentum. There's also nice detail in the contrasted moods and in how the information discovered by the police feels repeatedly one step behind the jackal. All that ties together to make this chapter taut and tight. These are two separate character strands, but they are tied inextricably together. The other example I want to give you is from the opening section of Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. And this book is the story of Nick and Amy. Amy disappears, and Nick is accused of killing his wife. In the first section of the book, there is a dual narrative between Nick's story in the present day and then diary entries from Amy back in the past, which then slowly work their way back up through to the present day. The strands here are chapter lengths, so it's not as fast as in the Day of the Jackal, and there's a difference too in that they're two separate strands in time rather than happening concurrently. And as a result, the author has to work a little bit harder to create her links, but she does this very well. The first section of the book is quite long, over 100 pages, and I'm not going to go through it all, but instead give you a few examples of where the chapters link up particularly well. And here I think there is that sense of the baton being passed from one strand to the other. This first example is from quite early on in the novel. We've got Nick looking for Amy, and this is when she's first disappeared. She wasn't on the water, she wasn't in the house, Amy was not there, Amy was gone. We then switch to Amy's diary, and here by contrast we get Nick arriving. Well, guess who's back? Nick Dunn. It's a small detail, but the contrast works well in linking the two sections up. Amy has gone, Nick has arrived. In a similar way, this is a little bit later on. We've got this end of an Amy chapter here. I don't feel real anymore. I feel I could disappear. And then we have the start of the next Nick chapter. The police weren't going to find Amy unless someone wanted her found. So we've got Amy thinking about disappearing, and we've got the police unable to find her. Again, you've got that very nice linkage through the language. It's a very efficient technique and very effective. This next example is the end of another Nick chapter. Then comes sex and a stiff drink and a night of sleep in a sweet, exhausted rat's tangle in our big soft bed. Poor me. And here's the start of Amy's diary entry. Poor me. Let me set the scene. Once more, you've got that deliberate use of the same language, poor me, to help that shift from present back to past. Let's give you one more example of that language use. Here's the close of a Nick chapter. Nick, you fucking idiot. And here's the start of the following Amy one. I am such an idiot. Like the poor me before, that repetition links up. It also creates a sense of parity between the two strands. It helps Amy and Nick to feel equal as characters, which is important for the story. There are more language examples, but I want to give you one more final different sort of link, more plot related. And this Amy chapter finishes as follows. I must take my husband out of my dark shadowy thoughts and shine some cheerful golden light on him. I just wish he thought about me as much as I do about him. Is that wrong? I don't even know anymore. In the Nick chapter, plot spoiler, we learn that Nick has been unfaithful to Amy. Now is the part where I have to tell you I have a mistress and you stop liking me. And that's a good reveal, but it's all the better for the closing Amy line. Is that wrong? I don't even know anymore. It's something that Nick could be asking himself. And that revelation is set up by what has just gone before. I've just given a few examples here, but if you have chance, it's worth looking back through that whole opening section because the way it's linked up is brilliantly done. What could easily have been two separate strands, particularly given the time difference between them, are brilliantly dovetailed together. So when you are writing a book with more than one strand, thinking like these two authors have done in pulling their strands together is key. It's how you can get potentially disparate sections to come together and create the whole that will really bring your novel alive and make it more than the sum of its narrative parts.
Okay, thank you, Tom, for a most enlightening lesson. Reminded me, first time I read Gone Girl before the film came out, it was a long train journey sort of book, and didn't see the twist coming. Absolutely fascinated by it. But yes, so hopefully that's something that will come in to more of the forefront of your thinking after you're done with your first draft or your zero draft. This idea of how you bring all these strands together, how you link your chapters from one to the other to make sure it's a cohesive, propulsive experience. If you did enjoy that, please consider giving this video a like. There's 50 of us here and only 16 thumbs up, and I basically like Tinkerbell. I live on thumbs alone without thumbs. A fairy dies somewhere. So do consider giving this a like and maybe subscribing to the channel. Next month we'll be going back to more regular recorded stuff and shorts. Just a lot of time has been spent this month working around the novel sprint, which I absolutely have enjoyed, but I'm also looking forward to having some of my evenings back to myself, as I'm sure you will as well. Before we get to any questions about the submission stuff, I need to do my solemn duty as an employee of Reedsy Limited and talk to you about Tom's How to Write a Novel course. This is, I'm sure some of you may have taken it before, a lot of you will have heard of it because we never stop talking about it, but it is a fantastic course that we recently reworked. It used to be that it ran on Rails. So every single week you get a new module of lessons, one every single day. But after some feedback, we've now opened it up. You can now take it at your own pace, start whenever you like, finish whenever you like. If you want to go through 20 lessons in a day, you can. However, they're built for a one lesson a day progression. Last you saw this advertised, Vicious, it was 1,400. Well, I've got some really good news for you in just a second. The course is pretty much still the same, apart from it doesn't include some of the live features. Every Monday we had Monday Masterclass, which we have now made a part of our learning membership, so those things are available separately, but it still includes 101 video lessons just like that. If you've been following these, you've had a handful of those, so you've only experienced the very tip of the iceberg. We've all shot in a really nice London home, and it includes also membership to a forum where other students are, so you'll be in contact with other students working at the same pace as you. You'll be able to give one another feedback. We also have a few course conveners starting at the end of the year who'll be able to give you a bit of guidance and walk you through the course and answer any questions. These are experienced editors and educators. But yeah, as you can see, if you go to reedsy.com/learning, you'll see a little outline of all the different modules we have throughout the entire course. It's incredibly good, really high quality stuff, fantastic examples. Tom's a really seasoned teacher, writer, ghostwriter. He really knows his stuff. However, it is now, thanks to Black Friday week, this course, to start at any time, is now available at the all-time low price of $349. This is only going to be valid until next Monday. If you're interested in taking it, which actually might be a good companion for your editing process, and I do encourage you to maybe think about signing up this week. We won't be reducing it to this, I think, definitely not until Black Friday next week. To give you an idea, we also have this available as a gift card. So if you know anybody who would like to take this course, learn how to write a novel, and sort of be guided through it, given the sort of framework and process and insight from an experienced writer, to consider giving them this. You can use the promo code Black Tuesday, because I sent out the email yesterday. But the details and promo code are in this video, Black Tuesday. If you're subscribed to our newsletter, check your inbox there. All of that will be there. Of course, the promo is only available until I think the end of Monday. I've set it up so even if you live in Hawaii, as long as you do it on Monday, it should all be absolutely fine. Jewish Rock Music says, good, nice gift for fiction writers, but you know, if you're a memoirist, the principles all still apply. You're writing a story with descriptions, structure, plot strands with subtext, everything that you can apply to a novel, you could definitely apply to a memoir. Okay, so to answer a few of the questions, yes, on Monday I sent around a newsletter saying that on Wednesday, today, there'll be an email going around with a link to allow people to submit. That will be, of course, only sent to the people who have hit 50,000 words. Wednesday is here, and it has not been sent. As I mentioned, I ran into some issues where I thought of some potential loopholes. However, the email will come around tomorrow, and we shall, be asking you to submit the opening chapter of your book. So, first question I've been asked: does it have to be the opening chapter? No. It does have to be something that was written originally during the novel sprint. The entire manuscript, or pretty much most of it, has to substantively have been written for the novel sprint. We're doing this in an effort to be fair. Some people may have had something that they've been drafting for absolute years, loaded that up, and then maybe continued writing on that. That puts them at a distinct advantage, I would imagine, to other people. However, I would heavily urge you, if you're writing a linear piece of work, let's say a novel or a memoir, to pick something near the beginning. We've done loads of contests before where people just submit their best work and they put it in chapter 10, which maybe something that doesn't feel like a beginning, doesn't feel like it's very hooky, requires maybe additional context. This will be given to our judges sight unseen, just with the title. Maybe we'll ask for a genre and the chapter. So if your prologue, you reckon, is something you're very proud of, you can do that. But I would urge you to pick a chapter where maybe you introduce the character, things happen, to sort of show your voice and sense of location. So you can basically submit whatever you like. However, it is my strong opinion that earlier the better. So how will you submit it? I'll send around an email tomorrow with a form where I'll ask you to share your chapter. We actually have a feature on Reedsy Studio. Let me bring that up. Yep, here's Reedsy Studio. We have a feature that's designed to help you share chapters with early readers, so alpha readers, beta readers, your mum and dad, friends. So if you actually have a look on your manuscript, this hopefully should look familiar to you. At the bottom, there is this button called Share. And from this, you can click Create a New Link. And from that, you can share selected chapters. Pick the chapter that you want to share. In this case, I'm heavily urging you with chapter number 1. But you can pick whichever one you like. However, first one, please. And I'm going to need you to pick an expiry date, because you can share this and then the link will expire at a certain time because you don't want it floating out there forever. I will ask you probably to make it available until January the 31st. Tap Create a Link, and then this will be the link that you can then share with us. And if I open it, it'll look a little bit like this. So I'll be able to see that it comes from any the particular manuscript or project that you've been working on, etc., etc. Okay, so there will be details. I'm going to record a video to walk you through step by step. So if you didn't catch now, don't worry. There'll be a video that will be very, very specific about how to do that. Vicious261 says, this is a book in a series. It's not going to be introducing characters like that. Assumes you have read the previous books. Is that going to be all right? Anything is all right. That's the tough thing with a series. Like, if you've read like the first few Harry Potter books, like each one of them are sort of written in such a way that sort of assumes that the reader actually hasn't read the previous one. If you're being thrown in the deep end, I'm not going to lie, it's going to be a hard entry point for many of our judges. So if they haven't read it before, which I'm going to assume they might not have, it may be harder. However, there will be other sort of rewards that you can unlock. And if there's a sense of voice, then it will be good. However, generally, as a point of craft, pretty much any book you're writing, even if it's within a series, if someone picks it up, they shouldn't feel like they're lost. It shouldn't feel like a previously on this series of books. It should maybe fold in some of the important information organically, or start its own story independently, and then catch people up if that is necessary. Let's see. Kimberly says, if your chapter is longer than 3,000 words, is there a way to share a 3,000-word section of a chapter? What I would suggest you do for that, in which case, is let me bring it back to my Sherry screen again. All right, so in this case, I would suggest you can add a new chapter, and we'll call this excerpt submission, and then go into your chapter and just sort of copy and paste the bits that you wish to actually share there. Cool, and then you should be able to do that one as well. We are looking for something between 1,000 words and 3,000 words. If it's longer than 3,000 words, yeah. So just basically take up to 3,000 and put that in. I would urge you definitely to keep it under 3,000. Basically, we're expecting a lot of submissions. And like with many contests, if something flagrantly doesn't follow the guidelines, it often is used to discount it, because some people did follow the instructions and there are going to be a lot of things to read. Jewish rock music, does the Reedsy editor word count change depending on what chapter you're in? The full one shouldn't do. If you move stuff into different chapters, split them all, it should be exactly the same. Lou says the first chapter is almost 3,000. It sounds like you're hitting the sweet spot there. Also, don't feel like you need to submit 3,000 words. If you put something that's tight, works, and is 1,000 words, that is beautiful, especially when so many of us are going to be reading so many entries from this. We promise we will go through it and read it with the due care that it deserves. But my God, you don't need to use every single word we afford you there. Let's see. Anna says, what if I want to submit the first 2 chapters and a half of the third one, because that would be 3,000 words? You can do that as well, but it may not be helping you, as I've just sort of said. Jewish Rock Music says, how do you find out how many words you've got in chapter 1? For that, let's go back to Reedsy Live. So let's go here, and then under Goals and Insights, if you scroll down, that should tell you at the bottom what the word count for that particular chapter is. So in this case, 337. If I go into the next chapter, I'll be able to see, scroll down, this one's got 4,008. So yeah, just in the goals and insights bit, it'll let you know at the bottom how many you have there. If you don't know, there are tools available online, or hey, if you've got a lot of time on your hands, you can count it out with a pencil on your screen there. Lavo says you keep a 2,000 word per chapter rule. Hey, feels a bit arbitrary, but hey, if it works for you, I think there's something to be said of keeping chapters relatively short. I will also say that there's something to be said about varying your chapter lengths, about some are shorter, some are longer. In Tom's course, he talks about this idea of creating variation in the same way that you wouldn't have all sentences of a fixed length unless that is your dogged intention. To have chapters of varying length creates a sort of texture, a dynamic to it, and also shorter chapters allow you to speed through things. As Tom mentioned in one of his other lessons, if you want things to go fast, you write short sentences. If you want things to run slowly, you write long sentences. Okay, so let's see if there are any other questions here. Otherwise, yes, I want to thank you very much for tuning in here. Remember, the Black Tuesday deal is valid until next Monday. If you forget it, just have a look at this thing down here, or just email us, support@reedsy.com, and they'll be happy to remind you of that. A perfect gift for that writer in your life, if I don't say so myself. But yes, Sarah Vernon, can we submit the chapter now or wait for the email? I'd really please don't submit it now. I don't want an inbox full of random ones. We've got a form set up that will put it all into a spreadsheet that I can access, which will make my life significantly easier. I used to do some live events where people can submit stuff, and I just said, yeah, just send it to my email. But that turned into my email inbox turning into an absolute wasteland. Peglaw says your book doesn't have chapters. Each book is a chapter. Can send the first 3,000 words. Basically a chapter, but not named as being such. If there is an end to a scene or a natural break, I'll leave it to your discretion. It doesn't necessarily have to be a chapter. Again, it doesn't have to be 3,000 words. I'd rather you pick a impactful endpoint than for it to stop halfway through a sentence. In fact, if someone is reading it and it just stops halfway through a thought, that would, I think, reflect a little poorly on the sample itself. So it is your opportunity to curate the reader's experience and pick a spot there. As I said, it doesn't have to be the beginning. Urge you to do the beginning, please. And you have until basically end of Monday, end of Tuesday to edit away at it. Ideally, it shouldn't be a brand new scene, but you can make edits. We will be comparing it to the manuscript as it is at that given point to see, to make sure that you basically haven't rewritten it after November. If you've rewritten it now, I'm fine with that as well. I'm still finding our way through this, but with that in mind, this is the last live event we're going to do. I'm going to go live on Monday morning, if anyone is around there, probably shortly after midnight, just to say a quick congratulations. But hey, I can say a quick congratulations to everyone for making the effort of turning up and putting the time in, and the focus has been absolutely incredible. Winzani, I'll mention the deadline again. It's everywhere. It's Tuesday, but yes. Thank you very much. It's been such a pleasure spending my evenings, your mornings, or afternoons with you here on these live events. Yeah, perhaps we'll do some more writing sprints off season. I'll be creating some challenges here on Reedsy throughout the next year. So even without the novel sprint, there'll be hopefully new fun ways to get a little bit of writing done. So keep your eyes out for that. In the meantime, yeah, we have 4 more days. Everything is in your hands. Let's keep going. Don't take your foot on the gas. Don't take your foot off the gas. And I'll see you in December. Bye.